Hi, I'm Daniel Lucas, and welcome to Book 101 Review. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years, and today I have my special guest. He's the author of the book Eight Core Practices Facilitative Leaders, no other than Mr. Michael Wilkinson. Welcome to Book 101, Mr. Michael, and can you please introduce more about yourself?
Oh, and I'll be glad to. And thank you, Daniel, for having me on. So, in the industry, I'm called Michael the Facilitator because back in 1992, started a company, Leadership Strategies, the Facilitation Company. As we like to say, world headquarters, our second bedroom. Yes.
Wow.
But today, we're the largest provider of what's called professional facilitators in the country. So, you know how when leaders go off on those 2 day retreats to do strategy or team building, we're the folks who run those meetings. We're the ones up front taking them through the process. And so, we're the largest provider of those facilitators in the country, and we train people to do it. But the book you see, the Eight Core Practices of Facilitator Leaders, over my 30 years of running that company, I'd worked with leaders who were amazing. I mean, truly amazing. They understood facilitation. And then, should we talk a little bit about what facilitation is for your audience so they'll know what I'm talking about?
Go ahead.
So,
But before that, I want to give you
please.
an applause. Thank you so much, Mr. Michael, the facilitator, for sharing your knowledge to the world. And please, can you enlighten us what is a facilitator?
So think about this, and I want to contrast it. Um, I was with one of those big eight consulting firms for a while, Daniel, and we would go into companies with lots of smart people, come up with what we call the 100% recommendation. Do these things, your company will be better. But Daniel, when we go away, come back a year later, we'd be lucky if 15% was implemented. But in my last 2 years with that organization, we started taking a different approach. So we'd still come in with smart people, but we'd get their team together. We let their team come up with the recommendations. We'd have them go through the same processes we would use. Quite frankly, they might only come up with the 60% recommendation. So we would float ideas. What about this? Oh, great. What about that? Great. But here's the key, we go away, come back a year later, 80% of what they came up with, they would implement. When we came up with it, they only implemented 15%. Why? And that's because, and we use it as a formula, ED equals RD times CD. And I know your audience didn't come to do algebra today, but let me break it down. The D is the same word, decisions. So ED, an effective decision, equals RD, the right decision. And if you're like me, Daniel, you're probably thinking, put a period in it. Effective decision equals right decision, but it's times CD, commitment to the decision. So if a leader knows the right decision, but his or her people have zero commitment to implementing it, you know the math. Anything times zero, Daniel, is a big fat zero, right?
Yes.
Unfortunately, that's what leaders do. They try to figure out what to do and then try to build commitment. But if you get the people in the room, like we did in my last 2 years, who were going to be impacted by the decision, get them involved in creating the decision, not only do they understand it, they accept it and are committed to implementing it. That's called facilitation. And so that's what we've been showing leaders how to do, how to, instead of directing their people or delegating to their people or coaching their people, there's a fourth leadership style called the facilitative leader, where you get your people together, engage them in the work. Of course, people wonder how come, if it works so well, how come the leaders don't do it? Because they don't know how to facilitate. So I appreciate them. You're doing what we've been doing. Newsflash, someone's written a book, yours truly, The Eight Core Practices of Facilitative Leaders. So we show leaders the 8 key things to do to be facilitative in their leadership.
So can you define leadership?
Oh, we sure can. In fact, let's contrast it. Management versus leadership. Let's look at that contrast. And
Yes.
so, what does a manager do to people, with people? They supervise people. What's a leader do with people? They inspire people. Difference. What does managers do with vision? They implement. What do leaders do? They create the vision. What does managers do with problems? They solve the problem. They fix it. What do leaders do with problems? They eliminate them. They make sure that problem never comes back again. What's a manager do with client needs? They satisfy them. What's a leader do? They anticipate them. So you can get the picture. While the manager is supervising and trying to implement and so on, the leader is inspiring, they're creating. So we say a manager is about today, a leader is about tomorrow. A manager's reactive, a leader is proactive. So it's a huge difference. And we find leaders aren't born, they're developed over three distinct levels. And so in the book, we show leaders here are the three levels. And where are you in your leadership? What do you have to do to move to the higher level? And that's what we want every leader to be able to do and to do with their people. Because as they raise their people up, guess what happens? They're also able to raise up. It's a very cool principle. Facilitation works if you work it.
Very
And
well
so we're showing
said.
people that. Oh, I get
Sorry
a
for
hand clap. Thank you, Daniel.
Very
Yes.
well said. I like the way you say it. Thank you so
Yes.
much for that knowledge. So, what are the 8 core practices of facilitative leaders, and why are
Oh.
they essential for effective leadership?
And so let's play a game together, Daniel. I think your readers will, well, your listeners will love this. Should leaders start with the why, or should they start with the how? Should they tell people you do this, you do this, you do this, or should they explain to them here's where we're going and why this is important to do?
One
Daniel, poll
first.
of one, start with the why.
Yeah.
Most leaders, you know what they do. Okay, you do this, you do that, you do that. They basically are treating their people like hands and feet as opposed to minds and the ability to engage. Because when people are engaged, it makes a difference. So, practice number one, start with the why, engage with the how. Principle two, now they spell the word succeed. So the S, start with the why. The U, understand and empower your people. Don't command and control. See, some people you can delegate to, some people you need to direct, some people you can coach. But you know what? If you direct somebody who you should be delegating to, Daniel, they're going to call you a micromanager. Listen, just let me do it. I know what I'm supposed to do. You are trying to direct somebody you should be delegating to. Likewise, if you try to delegate to somebody who really needs to be directed, really needs to be, boy. So in the first case, they get frustrated because you are overshadowing. What do they call you? A micromanager when you're trying to direct them when they should be delegated. But when you delegate to them when they should be directed, you're going to become frustrated because they're not getting it done. Both cases are called mismanagement. So you need to understand your people and empower them appropriately. Don't command and control. So that's the U. C, communicate in their language, not yours. Leaders recognize that if I want to get you engaged in something, Daniel, I got to speak your language. I need to understand what's important to you because what's important to me isn't necessarily important to you. But if I understand you and speak your language, boy, I can engage you. I can get you involved in just about anything because you know that I know. Which gets us to the fourth one. And this personally for me, Daniel, is the one that I am continually working on. Connect first, correct second. See, when I see someone doing something that's not quite right, I want to just correct it. But listen, it'd be helpful if you do it this way or do it that way. No, bad leader, right?
True.
Connect first. When people know you care about them and that you see them and what they're doing that is great, when they know you see their greatness, they'll run through walls for you and they will do the work to correct. Connect first, correct second. Love to share a story if I can about when this was done poorly, if I could. I
Go
was
ahead.
this is I was installing. I grew up in IT, and so I was installing project manager for a payroll system, getting implemented in 500 convenience stores across the southeast. I wanted it to be the best payroll system ever implemented in the history of man because it was my first time project managing. 6 month project. 2 months into the project, Daniel. 2 months, 1 month in. We hadn't even gotten to the end of month one. The sponsor, the CFO, comes into my office and he says these words, kind of like this: Michael, you're doing a terrible job. I was just talking to the controller. He's upset. He doesn't understand how this new payroll system is going to update the balance sheet accounts. Would you get on the stick? Then he left. Daniel, we call that seagull management, where you fly in, make a lot of noise, dump on everybody, and fly out. I've been truly upset only 4 times in my life. Only 4 times in my life have I been truly upset. I was livid. See, here I was working until 9, 10 o'clock every night. I wanted this to be the best payroll system. What he was talking about was something that was supposed to be implemented in month two. And we weren't even at the end of month one. And but suppose he had come into my office, Daniel, and simply said, Michael, I know you're putting a lot of time into this project. I appreciate it. But could you do something for me? I was just meeting with the controller. He doesn't understand how this new payroll system's going to update the balance sheet accounts. Would you sit down with them, get them comfortable with it? Would you do that for me? What I've said, Daniel? Of course.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's the same message. You're not doing something I want you to do. But the second time, that version, he let me know he saw me. He let me know he saw my greatness. And then he was correcting me as to what I need to do differently. So the lesson I would have walked away with was, here's what facilitative leaders do. What was the message I got? Seagull management, this complete, yeah, yeah. And even today, I still get upset when I think about it. And that was over 30 years ago. So you get the picture. So we
Yes.
said, start with the why, understand and empower, communicate in their language, connect first, correct second. So that's the SUCC. Let's get to the 2 E's. So the first E is equip for success, monitor for results. So many teams are unsuccessful because their leaders didn't equip them for success. We teach something called the 8 essentials of teams. Every team needs these 8. 5 of them you as the leader should provide. 3 of them they have to produce themselves, but you got to do your 5. So equip them for success and then monitor results. The second E, and quite frankly, Daniel, this is the most controversial of them all because it really says you should engage conflict and encourage disagreement. Engage conflict, encourage disagreement. So your listeners may be wondering, what? Why should somebody encourage disagreement? Well, here's why. Suppose a leader walks into the room and says, hey, everybody, I think we should do this. Do this. And everybody in the room says, okay, we'll do this. The leader wants us to do this. Well, suppose the leader did this differently. The leader went into the room and said, you know what? I'm thinking about doing this. Tell me what you like about this. Cool. Now, what concerns you about this working? And then someone says, well, what about if we do it this way? And someone else says, that's good, but how about this? Someone else says, oh, that's good, but what about this? And then you end up with this instead of this, where you get this much positive change instead of this much. Why? Because the leader encouraged disagreement. The leader didn't say, I think we should do this. What do you all think? The leader said, what's good about it? And you know what? How can we make it better? What's concerns? So they should encourage disagreement because all disagreement means there's a better solution we haven't gotten to yet. And so facilitative leaders know that. Other leaders don't. So we said, start with success, start with the why, not with the how. understand and empower, communicate in their language, connect first, correct second, equip for success, monitor for results, engage conflict, encourage disagreement. Now we get to the D. That is drive strategic thinking throughout the organization. We want everyone thinking strategically versus tactically. What's a tactical decision? Okay, where do I go to lunch today? Something as simple as that. You can make it a tactical decision. Had Chinese yesterday, had Mexican the day before. Felt like Italian. Very tactical decision. That decision can be made strategically. Wow, you know what? Let me think about where I'm going with my career. Who are the people that I really should be eating lunch with? Or where are the places where I would meet the kind of people? You see where I'm going. Now, that's just a simple example about lunch. But think about someone has a decision about, hey, how do we solve this problem? If you teach all your people to think strategically, which is, hey, what's our long term vision here? And given where we are and what we want to do, what are the barriers standing in our way? And what are the critical success factors for getting to this vision? And so then what should we start on first, second, and third? That's thinking strategically. And those are skills every leader would want everyone to have, from the division leader all the way to the receptionist. If everyone's thinking strategically about their area, man, the organization advances. And then the last, and you've been really patient with me. Thank you, Daniel. The last is the S in the succeeds model. Start,
Yes.
execute, and close every meeting masterfully. Because leaders, if you think about it, many leaders spend over 50% of their day in meetings. Maybe a group meeting, it may be a one-on-one meeting. And so every one of those interactions should be highly successful. It should be masterful. And so leaders, when they demonstrate it, then their people will see, oh, this is the way you run a meeting really, really well. The state of meetings in America, horrible, terrible. You say, hey, would you come to my meeting? You'll have someone say, oh, no, I'm sorry, I can't make it. Have a root canal that week. And if I don't have it, I'll go ahead and schedule it. They'd rather get a root canal than come to another draining meeting. And so masterful meetings look really different. And so that's the 7 steps in our succeeds model. So thank you for that. It's something that we've been sharing with people all over the world.
Wow. Again, another applause to you, Mr. Michael, the facilitator. I like it. I love it how you empower us. So, connect and correct.
Yeah. In
That's
fact, let me ask
awesome.
you, when you
Yes.
heard those 8, was there one of those that you said, okay, with my people, I need to work on this one? Was it starting with the why, understanding and empower, communicate in their language, connect first, equip for success, engage conflict, drive strategic thinking, or start, execute, and close every meeting masterfully? For you, Daniel, which was the one that, hey, you know what? I really need to work on that one.
Correct and connect. Oh, connect
Yeah,
and
so you,
correct.
you and I share that, right? Connect first, correct second. Your people will
Yes.
love you if you do that. In fact, I'll share with you the first time I did it, I did it with my director of operations. I saw her at the copy machine, and I just connected with her, praised what she was doing in this area, and I asked her about, hey, is there something we can do better about this? Then I left. Later on, I found out from the CFO, she had the operations director went to her and asked, "Is something wrong with Michael? He praised me today." Oh God, that's terrible. When if you're praising people, they think something's wrong with you. That really was a wake up call for me, Daniel. That I really needed to focus on. Connect first, correct
Connect
second.
first. So, Mr. Michael, what would be your advice for those all leader all over the world?
Yes, leaders all over the
Leaders.
world. Yes,
Yes.
learn about the power of facilitation, because we all want to engage our people. We all want our people to give that extra effort. And when they feel connected with you, when they feel like you care about them, it makes a huge difference. When you understand facilitative leadership, it changes the way you solve problems. It changes the way you make decisions. It changes the way you engage people. And so I'd recommend take a look at the book, take a look at the material, the 8 core practices of facilitative leaders, and engage your people because facilitation works if you work it. If you don't know how to work it,
100%.
it's a problem. So
Yes,
thank you for that,
100%.
Daniel.
Yes, 100% works. So, Mr. Michael, what will be your short term and long term goals as the facilitator?
Oh, great. So, our vision as a company has been sharing the power of facilitation with the world because just most people don't know about it. And so, in this, I am now, Daniel, in what we call preferment. I don't like the word retirement because that sounds like you're going to sleep, doesn't it? Preferment is where
Yes,
you get to do what you prefer to do. So I've transformed from being the CEO of the company leadership strategies, the facilitation company, to being Michael the facilitator, a keynote speaker speaking all over the country around the power of facilitation. So that's where I'm going for the next 10 years, really spreading the power of facilitation, one keynote at a time. And this podcast is a big step in that direction. Thank you for the opportunity.
no worries. You are most welcome to come back next year because I'm fully booked for this month and January and February, probably in the middle of March. I want to, you know,
Sure. If we come back, we'll take one of the particular practices, and we'll go
yes,
deep on just that one. That'll be fun.
definitely, that will be fun. So, to sum up our discussion, Mr. Michael, in what ways do facilitative leaders foster collaboration and teamwork within their organizations?
Yes. In one sentence, facilitative leaders know that for a decision to be effective, not only does it have to be the right decision, it's time's commitment to the decision. So therefore, they focus their energy on doing things in ways that automatically build commitment. They get the people impacted by their decisions involved in creating them. So they get better decisions with much higher levels of buy-in and commitment. That's called facilitation.
Very well said. Very well said. And
Thank
again,
you.
Mr. Michael, the facilitator, thank you so much for empowering our
And I give
leaders.
you a round of
Yes.
applause. This is the round of applause. Thank you, Daniel, for doing the
Yeah.
work that you do.
Thank you so much. This podcast is created for you as an author. So, Mr. Michael, can you please invite our listeners to support all your books, your projects, or your being a keynote speaker?
Yes, please. You can. I am Michael the Facilitator, and you can go to michaelthefacilitator.com to see all the things that are available to you, lots of free resources and other things as well. If you'd like to book me as a keynote, would love to hear from you.
Yes, people, let's support Mr. Michael, the facilitator, because if you support him, more empowering books to come, more empowering speech to come. So, Mr. Michael, thank you for your time.
Thank you, my friend. Good, much success to you.
Thank you so much. More to come, people. See you soon. So, I will put on my
And we are
journal.
out.
Yes, I will put on my journal that you will become in the